So we're only about 90 days away from the release of the highly anticipated Deadpool and Wolverine. It's getting closer and closer every day. Cannot wait for this movie. And now they have given us another trailer, which gives us a little bit more of a peek inside to the story and what the implications for this movie may mean. But of course, I know we were looking forward to this, and we were obviously looking forward to seeing more of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine because they only slightly teased him in that first teaser trailer that dropped a couple of months ago. So let's just dive into it, man, and talk about this trailer. What did you think about this brand new look at Deadpool and Wolverine?
Oh man, we are so back, at least as of right now. Again, the movie still has to come out, things still have to happen, but this trailer, I think, is exactly what I needed it to be, and I think hopefully what a lot of other Marvel fans needed it to be. We needed faith that Marvel could come out with something that we could not only be excited about, but would we could have fun with, that would push the story forward in terms of the MCU. This movie is doing, again, to me, based off this trailer, a lot of heavy lifting for the MCU and things that are to come. Like you said, we didn't get Hugh Jackman in that first early teaser, but Hugh Jackman's all over this trailer. I mean, he opens it, he's literally talking through Wade Wilson, Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool all throughout the trailer. There's so many different callbacks, man, but overall, to put it quite plainly, this is an amazing trailer for Marvel. And I'm really excited for what's to come, because right now, tonally, I mean, they're dropping F-bombs in the trailer. They're doing it right as far as I can see so far. It does still have that Deadpool feel to it that I think is so interesting, because they did say they were going to like make it their own thing, but it needed that too. It needed that DNA, that Deadpool DNA in it to make it make sense for the character and for the way they're going to pull Wolverine in. They needed a little bit of that. So I'm glad to see it's here. Again, I started to get worried. They were like, oh, it's not as much Deadpool as you think. I'm like, no, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was hoping it would be. So yeah, man, I'm super excited. Tons of characters, a lot to talk about. But yeah, they did the damn thing with the trailer.
This new trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine, it's pretty fantastic. And I think from the very get-go, they waste no time at showing us Hugh Jackman. They get right into it, which is something that we all wanted to see. And you can just see this dynamic between him and Ryan Reynolds, which is just pitch perfect. You can tell that they had such a wonderful and fun time making this movie. And there were a lot of jokes that made me laugh. Definitely some things that made me raise my eyebrow and make me wonder, like, oh, where are they going with this story? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, all of the stuff that you want to see out of a Deadpool flick, the violence, the language. This is going to be a hard rated R movie. They are absolutely sticking to the tone and the spirit of those Deadpool films, which is what we always wanted. And I think Disney, they're showing us, like, this is what you expect. We're not shifting gears. We're not changing it up. We are sticking with what works. And overall, that has to restore, I think, a sense of faith in where they're going, especially considering how things have been somewhat challenging with the multiverse. This has the opportunity to get people really, really reinvested, I think, into the story that they're telling moving forward, because all signs point to very large ramifications based on this movie, and then, of course, the future projects that come out. But man, this was wonderful. I love watching it, multiple times just to get excited for it. I will say I expected a wee bit more in terms of the story. They're really holding back. They are absolutely playing it close to the vest, which is ultimately, I think, a good thing. I know Sean Levy, he was at CinemaCon a couple of weeks ago. He showed 9 minutes of footage from the movie, and he had talked on stage about how difficult it was to put together those 9 minutes without spoiling stuff, because this movie's just loaded with so many spoilers, Easter eggs, larger ramifications, connections to other movies and characters, perhaps. And so I think all signs point to something that's going to be absolutely fulfilling come July. But let's talk about some of these specific moments. I think one thing that I just want to kind of quickly point out is the tone of it. Yeah, of course we expect Deadpool and that franchise to be hilarious and funny and have all the comedy. But what I noticed in this trailer that I really appreciated was also a sense of seriousness and poignancy at certain moments in the trailer, and sort of a I think a faithfulness to the character of Hugh Jackman and his interpretation of Wolverine, because his character has largely been sort of a tortured soul in most of the depictions that we see him in. And I'm sure that there's multiple variants of Wolverine we'll see in this movie, but the one that we primarily see also feels like another character who's carrying a lot on his shoulders, and so much so that they sort of allude to the fact that he let his universe die or be destroyed or something of that nature. I don't know if this is the Logan Wolverine. We don't quite necessarily know if that's the case, even though that Wolverine died, or if this just might be another variant. But what did you make of that? Just the weight that character was carrying throughout this trailer, and ultimately what it might mean for the story.
I think, that's what makes Deadpool and Wolverine so interesting is a lot of people, I think on the facade would paint them as two completely different characters, but technically they're not. technically Deadpool just used his I guess his darkness in a different way than Wolverine did, and made light of it. Wolverine just remains gritty and a kind of somewhat angry guy,
Yeah, different coping
versus
mechanisms,
different
right?
coping mechanisms. Yeah, but in a lot of ways, they are very similar tortured souls, and you kind of talk about how of course, with Deadpool comes a lot of that laughter and a little bit of playfulness, but also Deadpool has always been on kind of serious missions. You know what I mean? Like, even though there's funny stuff happening, the Deadpool movies, it's always like a serious mission. Like, oh, we got to get this done. Oh, this needs to get done. There's always some type of gravitas to it, and so it's so interesting now pulling in Wolverine, who can, I think, kind of not necessarily counteract, but kind of go with the seriousness of the mission, but then on the other hand, counteract Deadpool with all of his wittiness and be like, all right, dude, what's going on here? Like, this is a serious thing. So I love that dynamic, but I also love that they'll be able to play with that gravity that we need for the MCU. It's, again, this movie, I think, is about to do so much, again, according to this trailer. But I think that's really important, knowing that they have a mission to accomplish, and this trailer is saying, yeah, they're definitely out to do something. They're not just two buddies running around the universe, So I think that's important that they conveyed that.
I don't know how many Wolverine variants we'll see in this movie, but it does feel like the vast majority of them are super depressed. They're alcoholics. They are dealing with so much shit and baggage. The first one that we see in this trailer is at the bar, which felt kind of like a callback to X-Men First Class, when a young Xavier and a young Eric, go to recruit him, and he tells him to, fuck off, essentially. And I think that that's a variant that isn't the same one that we see in the more traditional costume. I think that that's another version, but all of them have this weight that they're carrying because they have a very dark past. Most of the people around them have died over the course of history just because of, Wolverine's longevity with life. But then I think the one that we primarily are going to spend our time with, he's obviously responsible for something, or at least he considers himself to be responsible for the death of mutants, or maybe the non-existence of mutants, and he's probably the last one left. Very similar to what we saw in Logan, because all throughout that movie, it was pretty much hinted at that him and Xavier were the last mutants, and somehow they were responsible for the wiping out of mutants. And we don't really get into the specific details of what exactly happened, but they kind of paint it with broad strokes to give you a sense that, yeah, something very catastrophic happened to leave them, sort of in this dystopian post-apocalyptic society where mutants don't exist. So I can't wait to see how that plays out. And as you mentioned, Wade, though there is always that comedy, the first two Deadpool movies have their serious moments. There's definitely moments of actual big emotion, that occur in that movie. So I think they'll continue that as well here. Next thing I want to quickly highlight, these connections to the TVA. We kind of, teased that out in the previous one. We knew that the TVA was going to be a big presence in this movie, and they are not shying away from that in this trailer whatsoever. We see a little bit more with Matthew McFadden. We see more of the timekeepers and the different security guards as a part of the TVA. There's also a quick shot of Eliath, which we know premiered in Loki and is in the Void, and there's also the big Ant-Man head that's like a skull base for Cassandra Nova, which we'll get to her in a second. But there's a lot going on here, and we don't quite know exactly how it ties in with the story, but we do know that the TVA deals with timelines, and they deal with pruning individuals out of timelines. I mean, just based off of what you saw, what are your thoughts on what they showed us, and I guess ultimately how that might affect the story moving forward?
Oh man, I think there's just so much going on. I think the fun thing to recognize is I think this will be a really cool. I think also, I don't know if love letter is the right word, but a good like post Loki adventure. You know what I mean? Because Loki showed us what a lot of those different timelines are supposed to look like, what a lot of those different worlds are supposed to look like, and I think initially it was hard to tell which direction exactly they were going to go. Like, are Deadpool Wolverine going back to one timeline to do something specific? But now, looking at the trailer, it does feel like we're about to hit so many different places, not just where multiple Wolverines are, but like, again, it's like, whoa, Cassandra's Nova here. All of these people are here. How did we get into this situation? So I'm really interested more than anything to see what they're hiding from us. Like you said at the top of it, bro. It's like this is a story trailer, but there's so much that's like, what are we really, really doing? Like, tell us what we're really, really doing, and they won't show it. And so they keep giving us these little glimpses of the TVA, and again, all of these Easter eggs and characters. But man, I have no idea where it's going yet. It's really hard for me to tell. So yeah, I really can't get into the nitty gritty of those things. But man, I really don't know yet. It's kind of hard for me to put my finger on it. But I know it looks cool. That's all I can. Like that big Ant-Man head was like, whoa, what happened here? Like I need to know what happened here. So yeah, I can't wait to figure it out.
A part of me feels like, for whatever reason, the TVA is pruning legacy X-Men characters out of their universes, which, you know, I know we have a lot of speculation and rumors of previous X-Men from those other films showing up and potentially playing a part in this story. I wonder if something is happening, if there's some sort of insurgency in the TVA, there's some sort of uprising. Maybe it has to be related to Cassandra Nova to some extent. Maybe she's taken over the TVA and she's causing the different timekeepers to wipe out all these various X-Men timelines, mutant timelines. I don't know, just throwing it out there. But yeah, there's something going on. There's definitely something going on. I mean, even at the end of the trailer, the Doctor Strange portal that they jumped through, you talk about hiding stuff. They clearly wiped out whatever was on the other side. It's just like a massive white void, whatever they jumped through. And they clearly like deleted that out of the trailer so that it doesn't give it away. Do you think that's Strange possibly in the movie, or do you think it's Wong making like his 25th appearance in the MCU at that point?
I don't know. That's kind of hard to tell. It could be Wong. It could be Ned. Hello. No.
Oh my God, not Ned. Yo, we got to retcon that you know, him having the sling ring. I don't know about that one.
Remember somebody had a sling ring in Guardians 3? It could be a lot of people now.
True.
You know what I
That's
mean?
true.
It could be a lot of people. And I think that's kind of what makes it cool. Is like, oh, who is it? I think Strange would be cool because like, oh, finally, like people are starting to show up in other people's movies. You know what I'm saying? Plus Strange like went disappearing in some other, we don't know how we're going to get Strange back. So it'd be cool if he was there just to be like, oh, that's where Strange is. But yeah, there's no telling. I really do want it to be him though.
Yeah, it would be also, I think, a good move from a storytelling perspective, because Strange has already dealt to a certain extent with incursions, and maybe incursions are playing a big part in this story. And so he knows about that. He knows a little bit about that. And so maybe there's a way to bring him into the story to enlighten them about what's going on.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes your kind of, theory that you just came up with Cassandra Nova so cool about the TVA and what's going on purging X-Men, because that's exactly where we leave Miss Marvel, right? It is Monica Rambeau was literally with some X-Men. Imagine that's the post-credit scene for Deadpool and Wolverine. Is like they got to pull up on Kelsey Grammer's Beast. You know what I'm saying? Like some things go down. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's some cool connections that will be made eventually, though.
So let's talk about Cassandra Nova, because that's probably the biggest reveal of this trailer, if we're being honest. We speculated about villain, what that might be. I know Cassandra Nova was circulating as being the villain, but we finally see her in this trailer played by Emma Corrin. And wow, there could be very massive implications for her presence in this film, just because of the fact that she is the brother, technically, of Charles Xavier in the comics. Canonically, they are related. They are twins. And Charles actually, from what I know and what I understand, destroyed her in the womb. And so she had to sort of rebuild her physical exoskeleton, her physical parts, over time, and come back and essentially exact revenge on him and the X-Men. And so that's a really, really interesting component to play with and include in the story. We know that Charles is dead in the Logan timeline, but he's alive in other timelines. We saw him in Multiverse of Madness. I don't know. What are your thoughts about Cassandra Nova and just the role that she might play in this story? And is she also the real big villain of the movie? Could it also be somewhat of a red herring that, yes, she's a factor, but there might be a larger threat out there at play?
That's such a good point, because just knowing about Cassandra Nova and, where she comes from, it's like she could be. It's hard for me to say whether she'll remain a villain or not, because there are multiple times where she does replace Charles Xavier in some points. There are moments where we discover that like she's like the galactic opposite of Charles Xavier, but that didn't make her necessarily a villain. It just made her like opposite of him. Like in the because they, like you said, they were twins. So it's just a lot there that that could be going. But I do like the idea. At least she starts, you know what I mean, as the villain. Because I mean, who else more formidable than, again, somebody with these telepathy, telekinesis powers that we know Charles Xavier had? Now Cassandra Walken. Like I'm Professor X walking is scary. I'm sorry. Like that's why that's why they had to keep doing stuff with Jean Grey. You know what I'm saying? Like she's too good to just be walking around. Let's make her struggle with something over here. Like she can't do that. And so with a power such as Cassandra Nova being presented to us, I think it's pretty cool to present her that way, especially somebody who can possibly haunt Logan in the ways in which he's already been haunted. Like, what did you let happen? It was Cassandra Nova's fault, or just maybe she's reminiscent enough of Charles Xavier for him to be like, what is going on here? So I can't wait to see kind of those interactions and what she means for the movie.
Yeah, you have to present a formidable villain that can actually take on a Wade Wilson and a Logan who were practically invulnerable
Yep.
mutants. They can't really have damage inflicted upon them, or at least damage that'll last. They have these recuperating abilities, and so who better than to bring in this villain, quote unquote, than Cassandra Nova, who can get in their heads, who can use the telekinetic powers to her advantage. And it also appears that she probably made the giant Ant-Man helmet her base of operations. Like that's her headquarters, and maybe she's taken over the Void and she's running shit down there. I'm not sure, but all signs point to something that's going to be very, very epic. And clearly they are holding back a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if this trailer was the first 35 minutes, 40 minutes of the movie. And we haven't seen anything else from the other two acts of the film. It feels like that there's just going to be that much. Before we wrap up, any other things that you wanted to call out about the trailer? I think the only other like really funny thing, just, another comedic point, was the last joke about the cocaine. I thought that was hilarious. Ryan Reynolds is like, that's the one thing Kevin Feige said we cannot talk about. There's no cocaine references, and they just go down the list of all the different slang for cocaine. It was hilarious. I thought that was a great way to end off the trailer. But any other moments that you wanted to call out or point out from this trailer?
No, man. I think you got it. I think that dog is funny because it is ugly as hell. Oh my god, that dog is ugly. I was like, dang. I was curious if I actually don't know if that dog has made like a comic appearance or anything, but I was like, what is this dog? Why is it here? And why does it look like this? But it's funny because of course Deadpool will have a dog that looks exactly like that. And then the last thing is like, I'm still trying to understand why we're in certain places and seeing like they were in Sakaar. I don't know why they're in Sakaar. Like why? I just
That's
that was like point. Yeah, that was like the bed that like Hulk was in. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's the same the same bed. So yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on there. But that's really it.
Yeah, it feels like maybe similar to Endgame. There's going to be a lot of hopping around to various points that we're familiar with and various locations that we've seen in other MCU movies. Also, just want to point out, fucking Hugh Jackman, just absolutely shredded. Just ridiculous that this man gets in that type of. He's 55 years old, looking like that. It's unbelievable that he's still able. It's ridiculous. He has veins on top of veins in his biceps. I'm like, bro, I didn't even know like you can get veins in that location. You're just he's otherworldly. That's really why he's one of the greatest castings in comic book movie history. But certainly cannot wait for Deadpool and Wolverine. Of course, that movie will be coming out this July 26th, so we'll be locked in for every step of the way.